Hey, Jod, I appreciate you taking the time to join the podcast today. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate the time. If you don't mind, just kind of start out by introducing yourself. Tell us a little bit about your experience in business, investing, real estate. We're going to cover that later. Maybe a little bit of the coaching. I know that's a lot there. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Jod Woods. Peter, thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you for sure. So I have two businesses. I have a heating and air conditioning plumbing business, and I have a business coaching business. So I'll talk just briefly about both of those. My dad started my heating business in 1976. Dad retired because he was ill. He had to retire 15 years ago. Dad went home 12 years ago.
Okay.
When Dad retired, my older brother and I assumed all of those roles. It was a very small company at that point. Profitable, but not large by staff numbers or geographic reach or anything like that. Jeff and I had a little bit of a difference in opinions of what the future of the business would hold, different visions of that. And just in honesty, there were times that we were fighting. It was not pleasant always. We were trying to decide what that looks like. The patriarch's gone. And so who are we? Where are we going? What's that all look like? I engaged with a business coach at that point, and immediately things changed. And here's why. The very first thing the business coach said as he was meeting with me, and Jeff refused to meet with him.
Okay.
So there was that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We need to figure out why there's such a difference in opinions here. Well, come to find out, with a somewhat rather heated conversation, it was made very clear that my brother saw my dad work in the business all day long, working on furnaces, working on air conditioners, doing that work, hard, hot, cold, whatever, and then would spend every evening working on the business, the accounting, the banking, the all the marketing and all of these things, dealing with vendors and on and on. He said, that's not the life I want. Right. And if the business grows, I'm going to have to do that. Well, very quickly we realized that wasn't necessary. Jeff is a worker bee. He loves working on furnaces. The dude is so talented he can diagnose stuff from his truck. That's no lie. Right. But he didn't want anything to do with the business side of the business. Okay. That's the part that I love. So when we aligned those two visions together, that says, okay, what if you don't have to do all of the business stuff? I'll take care of that. Mm-hmm. Well, let's run. Let's grow. Right. Let's make more money. Let's impact more lives. Let's make room for other people that we can hire. Everything changed at that point. We live in a small town just outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, and it didn't take long before the community as a whole, chambers of commerce, networking groups, yada, 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 see the explosion that happens within our business.
Right. Yeah, I'm
growing, things, dramatic changes. They're coming to me saying, John, I see, I know you've been through this. How did you do this? What did you do? I've got this opportunity. What do you think? As I see the advice that I'm giving from the experience that I've gained, help them be successful. Dude, I've got fireworks. I love seeing people be successful. There's nothing that I'm more passionate about than seeing someone else reach the level of fulfillment that God has intended them for. Right. So I see that change happening. I'm having those conversations. A friend of mine, we've been friends for a long time. We were kind of an iron sharpening iron type of relationship with, reading scriptures and praying for each other and all that. Very similar in mind. He's much older than I. We were sitting at lunch. I write the word legacy on a napkin, flip it over to him. What's that mean to you? Next thing I know, we've started a coaching business where we are helping small business owners find that level of success and fulfillment. Because here's what I know. Most business owners, when they start a business, they know a widget. Okay. They understand what they do, and they're really good at what they do, but they don't understand the business side of the business, so they have a job rather than a business. So they struggle, and they find a level of exhaustion at some point because they're so consumed with working on, as my dad did, working in the business during the day, trying to work on the business any other time. Tell me you're not exhausted at the end of a long day. The last thing
Yeah,
you want
sure.
to do is do all of those other things that are part of that. So when you can find that balance and be able to do those things in the right time, and again, everybody's schedule is different. Some people are morning people, some people are night people. It makes no difference.
Right.
Finding that balance where that you can do those things and do them well and be willing to farm out the things that you don't enjoy doing, man, it creates huge opportunities for success.
And you kind of mentioned it with networking before in that small community. How does networking play a role in operating a business with you and your brother? How does that play a role?
Networking is critical because I have my sphere of influence.
Right.
You have your sphere of influence.
Right.
When we can combine those spheres of influence through a joint relationship, you take me to a friend of yours and said, "Hey Joe, this is Jod. He's a great guy. This is what he does. I've used him in my house. Whatever." That bond that happens instantly, you can't buy that. There's not enough social media ads to
Right.
generate that kind of
Right.
know, like, and trust, which is what everybody wants to buy with. They want to
Right.
buy from someone that they know, like, and trust. That bond is automatically there. There's no way I would walk into Joe's office cold and achieve that same level. Networking is critical.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say compared to an ad, if you trust the person, you connect us, that's obviously a game changer. Finishing up here in business before we go into real estate, how important is it for you to invest in your employees, have those clear lines of communication, regardless of what stage you're at in the management? Either you're just starting out or you're pretty scaled like your business is currently.
The most important person to my business is not the client. It's
Hmm.
my staff.
Interesting.
When my staff is empowered to do what's right for the client, they have my support. We have a clear vision of what we're trying to accomplish as a business, how I can impact my community. Ultimately, I truly, honestly believe that I can serve God by serving my fellow man.
Yeah, I like that.
So when that takes place and my staff knows that, we're clear on where we're going. That communication is there. My own personality is that I let things bottle up, and then when it gets to an explosion point, then it gets ugly. That's not the person that I need to be as the leader for the organization,
Right.
nor for my family for that matter. So what
Right.
I have to do is step aside, understand my shortcoming, my personality defect, sorry, and understand that my next step, I need to deal with things as they come along because it's much easier to course correct than to completely have to turn full around. I was speaking
By
with an
letting
Army
things go
engineer
too
one
far
time,
ahead. I like that.
told me this. He said a missile is off target 97% of the time.
Hmm.
It is constantly course correcting
Yeah.
up and down till it reaches its target. But it's not huge moves. It's these little 1 degree
Adjustments.
changes that unless I'm intentional in my process and say, okay, staff, this is what I want to do. I'm going to delegate this task to you. This is the result that I want to accomplish. This is why we're trying to accomplish this. Now, how you get from A to B, I don't care. As long as we get to B and it's efficient. But then as the leader, I need to be engaged enough to say, okay, how's that going? Any questions? What do you need from me?
Right.
Is the process going? Are we achieving the goal that we had intended? If not, we need to course correct, right? But it's not this, waiting for 6 months and then when it's totally gone sideways,
Not
coming
addressing
in,
it,
snorting
right.
and stomping, angry with everybody. That doesn't solve anything. But the constant little course correction, and I'm not talking micromanaging.
Right.
It's the absolute opposite of that.
Thanks for sharing all those tips on the business aspect of things. I think it's going to answer a lot of questions. Another question that I think it's huge, whether it's because of the success that Airbnb is seeing or just, you see the social media influencers talking about all those rental properties. Everyone wants to get into real estate investing. They can see it's been lucrative. Can you share your background on what initially attracted you to real estate investing and kind of tell us that story a little bit?
Sure. Real estate investing was never my goal.
Okay.
It was more of my wife and I love to travel. So can we have properties across the country that would allow me to travel and enjoy the areas that we love, building equity, let someone else pay my mortgage payment in the meantime.
Right.
Who doesn't want that?
No, everybody.
But then it's accumulating wealth over time. Not only is it increasing in value, and again, we all understand that the real estate market roller coasters. It's up, it's down, it's whatever. You don't want to buy at the top, but let's be real. You're never going to buy at the bottom,
Right.
and you're never going to sell at the top, right?
Yeah. Right.
So understanding and setting realistic expectations for yourself of what I'm going to accomplish in this purchase. That's investing as with anything. You're never going to buy the bottom. You're typically not going to sell the top. So you figure out what that looks like in the middle. But where we started was we love these areas around the country. We finally settled at where we our first property that we wanted to buy was in Branson, Missouri. It's about an 8-hour drive from us. We love the area. We love the amenities of that. The topography and the water,
development,
and, all the things that go on there in Branson. We just love it. We love the feel of it. And so we found a property that was in the location that we wanted. It was the price where that we wanted to be in. We understood that this was a nightly rental. We were going to use it ourselves when we were there. But other than that, that's how that started. And then we will continue to grow that and buy other properties around the country as we find the opportunity to, or whatever. So that was the first.
What are some common mistakes you see investors make right when they're starting out? They want to buy a property. They want to get into that kind of real estate. What are some mistakes?
Unrealistic expectations every time. Okay. Whether that is, I expect this to increase in value immediately. It's going to rent every night. It's going to whatever. I'm going to be rich in 2 days. And again, I'm being extreme, but not really, because in the back of our mind, we're going, oh yeah, this is great. It's going to be awesome, and I'm going to be filthy rich. And I'm never going to have to work again. It's not real. Okay, so understanding a realistic expectation of what that property is going to provide for you. Understanding what kind of commitment that you're going to have, understanding that relationship between whether you are self-managing and the time commitment that's involved with that is huge. Mm-hmm. Don't recommend it.
Okay.
Or the relationship between the management company is one of realistic expectations. This is what I expect from them. This is what they can expect from me. There's no questions. And whether that's true in any relationship, by the way, spouse, children, community, whatever. When I expect something and I don't get what I expect, then I'm unhappy.
Yeah, and I think in today's world, whether it's through social media or whatever, I think there are so many unrealistic expectations. I know when I finished college or university, you think you're just going to get out of college and make 6 figures right away and be able to invest with these things, half the position at work. And that might happen, like you said, 1 in a million times, but like you mentioned, it's just unrealistic. And I think people see that as well. They see this person online saying, I make 25, here's $50K a month. It just doesn't start out like that. What's finishing up real estate? What's one piece of advice you'd give to people who are just starting out?
I still think the word is realistic expectation. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm good. Realistic expectations and just having the patience to look for the right property and that they're going to get what they get at the start.
The patience of understanding that the right property is there.
Right.
You need to go into that with some very clear, defined lines of what you're wanting to accomplish, how much you're going to pay for it, how much you're going to have invested in maybe upgrades or updates, whatever. That realistic expectation of this is the all too often the fear of missing out is, oh, this is hot property and it's going crazy. It's just going to go up from here.
Yeah.
And that may be true, but then we jump in and we buy something that may be overpriced.
Right, yeah.
Our decision was so emotional, especially that first one. It was going to be uber emotional.
Right.
But understanding that I have to set that realistic expectation of how much I'm going to be engaged with this. How much is it going to take away from my other income?
Yeah.
My lifestyle, all of those things. Young in age investors all too often, you mentioned coming out of university and jumping right in there. I see all too often that people expect to have the same things and have the same lifestyle that their parents have
Yeah.
that have worked for 25 years to get it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that's not realistic.
Moving on here, when it comes to like investing or building generational wealth or wealth in general, if someone's trying to be smart with their money, they're trying to save, give us some advice on the best practices for that.
Okay. Um, there's two people. There's those that look wealthy, and
Yeah.
there's the that are genuinely wealthy.
Right.
It's been said, you see these lists of what kind of car does the average millionaire drive, and it's not the BMWs and the Mercedes and all the rest of those things. That's the appearance of wealth, but they're
That's
so
big.
far in debt that they've never really get a chance to enjoy their wealth, right? But being modest, and again, you can swing that pendulum so far both ways. You can go to where I've got the $1 million house and I've got all the fancy cars, but I can't afford to put furniture in my house.
Right.
And I've seen that
Yeah.
all the way over to and again, I'm not bad mouthing, I'm not being negative, but Dave Ramsey will tell you to live like no other so you can live like no other. That's the opposite extreme of that. There's
Right.
got to be a middle,
You
right?
got to enjoy
Where,
at some point.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I don't know that I will be here before the end of the day today.
Right. Yeah. That's
Now,
good.
that
That's
doesn't
good
mean
stuff.
I'm wasteful.
Right.
I'm not going out and I'm blasting all my money and giving it away and buying everything that I want. That's not what I'm saying. There needs to be some enjoyment along the way, but with the bigger picture in mind of this is where we're going.
You talked earlier about how you love seeing success in people in your small town when they were coming to you, and you were kind of sharing your experiences that led to legacy and building that kind of business coaching. What are one of the most common issues you see businesses face when they come to you for consulting, and what do you believe one of the key factors in a successful business is?
The what I see more often than not is people that are exhausted.
Yeah.
They're working so hard, they're putting in the hours, they're being diligent in their process, but they find that their life is so out of balance. Many times they're having marital issues at that point because again they've been drawn away from those relationships, trying to do. And us guys, this is our mentality is to protect.
Right.
We want to provide
Yeah.
financially for our family, but all too often what our family needs is not the money. They need the support
Yeah.
emotionally. And so
Okay.
what happens when I'm so focused on the financial support, I'm not saying that's not important, but when I'm so focused on this that I lose sight of what my wife needs from me as a husband, it then starts. And don't tell me that when you've got stress at home that you don't bring that stress into work.
Sure. Sure.
It
Right.
spirals out of control, and then before you know it, the marriage is dissolved. You're in huge financial problems, although you
Right.
worked so hard to get this financial success, and your life's a shambles. You've never reached the level of fulfillment that you sought out when you started your business.
Okay.
Business owners don't go in to start a business because they want a job. They already had a job. They were already capable of doing what they do with their widget, their service that they provide. But what they don't understand is that I'm doing my widget here. We talked about this earlier, but at night or some other time, I've got to do the business side of it. I've got to grow the
Right.
business.
Right.
Or if not, I don't have anything but a job. And that job shackles me 24 hours a day, 7 days a
Right.
week.
Right.
I never get an opportunity to go on vacation. I never get an opportunity to spend time with my family.
Mm-hmm.
My very first step is deciphering which of the tasks are necessary and which of them are done that someone else could do better.
Yeah.
And then finding how that works. Is that being farmed out? Am I hiring someone in to do these? Is it even necessary to do it at all?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a big part of it. Obviously, we've seen, from you telling us you're a high performer, and one of our main missions here at LifeShift is to help men be the best version of themselves and become high performers in every aspect of life. What systems have you put in your life that's helped you become high performing in business and your personal life, whether that's fitness? A lot of high performers have a structured morning routine. What does that look like for you?
There I have routines. I don't know that they're maybe scripted out that well, but let me paint this picture through the lens of a book that I've read.
Okay.
Living Forward by Michael Hyatt is a fantastic book to put your life in perspective because it starts with me writing my eulogy.
Okay.
How will my wife remember me? How
That's
will my
interesting.
children remember me? How will my community and my staff and you know, all on down the road, my church, how will they remember me? How do I
Hmm.
want them to remember me? I can't expect to get to that point and then them lie. I don't want them
Right.
to have to lie about that. I want them to find the that the person that I want them to think of me. I want to be that person.
Okay.
You've heard the saying of be the person that your dog thinks you are.
Right.
That's it's kind of kind of joking, but it really it kind of comes back to that. Be the person that you want to be remembered as, and that book then allows you to work back to from the future, from that point,
To your
back to
day to
what do I
day.
need to do this
Okay.
afternoon to make
Okay.
that happen.
Okay.
So
No, I was just gonna say, what does that look like in your day to day? Is that some sort of taking notes? Is that
I read a lot, but I start my morning. I'm in the office on time. I'm not the one that lets everybody else get stuff started. And
right?
some people might find that's okay. For me, I'm a different type of leader. I want to
Right. You
lead
like to
by
be there.
example. I want to be here, but that also allows me a lot of flexibility. My
Sure.
wife and I travel a lot. We're
Okay.
gone a lot, but my staff that I've put into place uh, supports that, allows me to do that. But when I'm here, and I'm here on
Yeah.
time, and I'm engaged. I've got my coffee. I've got my time in the Word. I've got the time that I've spent then with my staff before they're out in the field. All of those things happen that way. It just works.
Right. Okay.
So that takes care of that morning. Then you take a break at lunch. There's times of the day that a person needs to stop and
Yeah,
just
that's big.
big.
Yeah.
what have I got left? What's next? Let's look at my schedule. Now, one really important thing that I do before I leave the office, I always pull up my calendar for the next day for sure. Am I prepared for anything that I need? Am I coming straight to the office in the morning? Am I going to a meeting? Do I have the paperwork I need for that? Do I whatever? Am I prepared for the next day? If I have appointments, coaching appointments, I reach out to that person the day before. Hey, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Right.
It's just that confirmation there before I go to bed. One last time, I look at my calendar. It
Yeah.
allows me to shut my brain off because I don't have to
Okay.
worry about waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning going, oh man, I
Right.
forgot I've got to meet with Joe tomorrow and I got
Yeah.
to run to
I've
the
been
office
there.
first.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way because I've prepared before I left the office. Again, I
Mhm.
checked it before I go to bed, and then I get up the next morning and I check it again, not because I forgot, but
Right.
because I
Just to
want to
stay
remind
prepared.
myself of all the steps. It genuinely allows me to disconnect and shut my brain off so that when I
Yeah.
go to bed, I can rest.
Yeah.
And
And I
at
think,
that point,
yeah.
this is no lie. My wife is furious with me about this because I am in bed 30 seconds and I'm asleep.
I think we do that pretty heavily here at Life Shift as well, just in regards to having every kind of hour of your day planned out. And that doesn't mean that every day it's go, go, go. Like you said, you got to have that balance. Some days you need that dopamine release. You can have that time with your family, but it should be structured. And one of the things we always do is close out by a book recommendation. Would you say that's Living Forward? Who was the author for that again? Michael Hyatt. Okay, Living Forward by Michael
Yes.
Hyatt. Hey,
Fantastic book. And again,
yeah.
I have tons of books. I read a lot. And
Okay.
there's certain seasons of life. I'm not a fictional reader and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. It's more
Same here.
of topical, whether it's on my marriage or on business or on marketing or whatever that might look like. But Living Forward was one of those books that really grounded me and I had a solid foundation of this is where I'm going. This is
Okay.
what I want to achieve. This is who I want to be remembered as. What do I need to do today to get me there? That's the whole premise of the book.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Michael Hyatt's an extreme. He is an uber performer.
Right.
So he takes month-long sabbaticals and all this. That's not realistic for me.
Right.
Okay. But as I filter that through my particular lifestyle and my income bracket,
Right.
yeah, it changes. But I understand that what I need to do today, I need to focus on that. I need to take time to celebrate the victories.
Yeah, that's big
Yeah.
too. That's huge.
We set goals in life. we achieve those goals, and 2 seconds later we're going, okay, what's the next goal?
And celebrating those, I feel like would mitigate burnout and other things like that.
Sure does.
Hey, Jod, thanks so much for taking the time. Super generous, obviously. I think this is going to help a lot of people. I think your insights are valuable. Thank you for coming on the podcast today and sharing your wisdom with us, man.
Thank you very much. It really is my privilege.
Alrighty.